Okay, so we have our guests here. So let's get yeah, we've had our guests here. That's why I was like,
Alex, how you doing, man? You looking good.
I'm not in a rush, so go on, do your thing. That was some funny shit what one of your commenters just said now.
What did they say? Which one? We're all the Beagles.
We're all the Beagles, yeah.
Yeah. We are, guys. Okay. But we don't want to get kicked off YouTube. We'll go on Rokfin only for more of that stuff, guys. Trust me. But we have Alex here because he wrote 2 pieces. He's been busy. One on how whistleblower Frances Haugen is ref by the U.S. intelligence agencies, which is no surprise to a lot of our viewers and listeners, and a lot of the Gray Zone viewers and listeners. But also how billionaire meddlers are also involved in more shenanigans. So we're going to talk about both articles. I just wanted to show what some of his first article was on Frances Haugen. The background of Frances Haugen's Whistleblower Aid legal team indicates she was cultivated to complete Facebook's transformation into a vehicle for the U.S. national security state. So guys, this is Alex Rubenstein, and he did a deep dive into an organization that represented Frances Haugen, Whistleblower AID. Tell us about who's involved here, particularly the big honchos like Pierre Omidyar.
Well, Omidyar has financially backed this outfit, and I think separately he's paying for Frances Haugen's tour through Europe, where she's meeting with all these European officials. Even before she met with U.S. Congress, she met with representatives from France, Britain, and the European Parliament, which is, it's kind of it's weird timing because like her testimony in front of Congress was like 2 days after her identity was actually revealed. So it's likely that these meetings with Europeans happened prior to her coming out as the Facebook whistleblower on that 60 Minutes interview.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like I mean, just from everything I saw, it seemed to me that she was essentially crafted, right? And essentially kind of built, because in previous pictures and previous things, you kind of pointed this out in your article, she was tweeting on Ambien and was talking and blogging about biking through Europe. And like, not that whatever, like if that's your thing, that's your thing. But it's just weird to go from that. And her appearance changed drastically. Not that that's something I really want to focus on, but it's just more of like, it seems like a sort of planned crafting of a person, right? To kind of take on this new identity as someone that was working for Facebook and then felt compelled to share all of this information of what all the wrongs that Facebook was doing.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly gives that appearance, right? She had like no political experience before joining Facebook prior to like one talk that she gave on the intersection of gender and product management. So, I mean, I looked through her whole resume. I found her old blog. I found her old, now deleted Twitter account. It wasn't deleted when I first started my article. But since I tweeted about it, it seems that after that she deleted it rather than just leaving it locked. But there's nothing political. But what is interesting, and you see it in her testimony, is that she has like kind of a deep knowledge of what the United States government is concerned about abroad, whether it be Iran or China or what's happening in Myanmar and Ethiopia. She's very much aware of that, and she's very much pushing their line. And so you have to wonder where that comes from with, having very little experience in foreign policy. I guess she worked on counter-espionage at Facebook, but so she may have gotten a kind of a crash course there. But the people that she's working with and likely coached by in an interview about Frances Haugen, they said that, they provide media training and training on how to talk to Congress and all that kind of stuff. So it's very likely that she's being coached, and these people have a long track record of working with the intelligence community, with the national security state, and pushing their agenda from either the outside or the inside. She has 3 lawyers. One is Mark Zaid, who's a longtime intelligence community lawyer. which, you know, we should get into him more. But, you know, real quick, there's also John Tai, who's representing her, who is also like a fake whistleblower. He blew the whistle on something that Snowden already exposed. He did it in a way that tried to make Snowden look bad by, you know, doing it through all the official channels, hiring Mark Zaid before they started Whistleblower Aid to help him navigate what they call the lawful reporting process. And then the third lawyer that she has, who's also, you know, the three of them are giving interviews about her case and legally representing her. His name is Andrew Bakajian. He's like a literal former CIA agent. Like it's not a stretch.
Yeah.
He was former CIA, and a criminal prosecutor at the Department of Defense. And then the CEO of this outfit, Whistleblower Aid, where they're all coming from, a woman by the name of Libby Liu. She worked for 16 years at Radio Free Asia, which is a U.S. government propaganda outlet created by the CIA. And she's also the founder of Open Technology Fund. And this is kind of like a CIA style organization, because what they do, and they do it openly. And, you know, a lot of what happens now, or what happened in the past that the CIA did covertly, is now just done openly by, like, you know, U.S. government cutouts like the National Endowment for Democracy, USAID, and the Open Technology Fund. So what they do is they like invest in like tech startups that help regime change activists abroad, like communicate privately through encryption and whatnot. So she started the Open Technology Fund, which is like given millions and millions of dollars to like Tor and Signal. And so she's like, and oversaw the agency as they were giving money to like rioters in Hong Kong trying to overthrow the government there and like basically bring anarchy to the streets of like a major, you know, trade hub and internationalist city. So she's the CEO of Whistleblower Aid. So like everybody involved in this project is super spooky in different ways, whether actual CIA, whether Open Technology Fund or the State Department, or in the case of the main lawyer there, Mark Zaid. You know, this is a guy who is accused by high level, or, you know, prominent people in the whistleblower community, WikiLeaks, John Kiriakou, who blew the, if you want to go ahead.
I was saying Kiriakou with you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So, you know, WikiLeaks, John Kiriakou, Thomas Drake has also raised some concerns. They've accused Mark Zaid of ratting out his client, Jeffrey Sterling, to the FBI. And actually, the FBI has also accused Mark Zaid of doing this. In Jeffrey Sterling's trial, FBI Special Agent Ashley Hunt said that Mark Zaid and his then legal partner, Roy Krieger, contacted them and told them that they had a client who was going to blow the whistle on an issue that's nuclear and go to the media with it, and that client was Jeffrey Sterling. So Mark Zaid has denied this. I reached out to Jeffrey Sterling directly to try to clear this up. And unfortunately, he was not able to, he was either unwilling or unable to like actually do that for me. He didn't give me any comment. But, you know, I tend to think, and I don't want to speculate too much, but I tend to think that if he was happy with Mark Zaid's legal representation, there wouldn't have been any issue with him telling me so.
Well, you know, you're mentioning all these people, and when you started talking about Mark Zaid, you know, I saw the stuff that you kind of mentioned, but I want to talk a little bit more about the money behind the machine, and that's Omidyar,
sure.
Right?
Yeah.
You mentioned in the article Omidyar, and I think it's really important for people to understand who's funding Whistleblower Aid. You kind of mentioned him as this kind of like, my words, like a little Soros in training of sorts. Is it safe to say that he's starting to go that route right now? I mean, we understand his funding with PYT and whatnot, but do you also have any examples of where Omidyar probably put money into propagandized type of media that would help the State Department for regime change?
Yeah, in fact, I wrote a 3-part series on Omidyar. I think it was 2018 that I did this. So this has been going on for a while. Unfortunately, I can't immediately recall all of the specifics of that article. Or that series. I spent 1 month just like I'd wake up in the morning, start fucking researching, excuse my language.
Yeah.
and then go to bed. And I spent a whole month doing nothing but Pierre Omidyar. So I have a really in-depth investigation on him and his influence network, how he's shaping journalism globally, and how he's working with U.S. government CIA cutouts like the National Endowment for Democracy and USAID to further their agenda. You know, I in my article, you know, there's meddling in Zimbabwe that he's responsible for, and this is on the Gray Zone. It's also on Mint Press News. I hope people check that out. If you want like a really deep dive on something that's just absolutely like can I swear on this platform?
Of course.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So if you want to read like a 70-page mindfuck about Pierre Omidyar, who is the owner of The Intercept, and you know, he heavily funds every like press freedom group is funded by Omidyar. All the disinformation trackers tools that's funded by Pierre Omidyar. You know, it's funny, you have a media outlet that's funded by Pierre Omidyar, and then they get like awarded by another press group that's like also funded by Pierre Omidyar. So it's an incestuous club that his influence network extends throughout. But yeah, he's very much a regime changer. He's also a really weird guy. I mean, in my 2018 articles, I found he was obsessed with this game called Second Life, which is like, there's no objective to this video game. It's like literally just supposed to be your second life. And his avatar was a black man by the name of Kito Mandala. And there are screenshots out there of his avatar testifying at the United Nations with two girls in bikinis on either side. And there's, you know, also him in a sex dungeon. And there's like this one like sex dungeon chair, I don't even know how you'd call that, and his avatar's looking at it, and the caption that Pierre wrote was, this isn't a dentist's office. But
Jesus Christ.
He's reclusive, he's very tied to the United States intelligence community, and he's promoted regime change wherever he can, and like actual disinformation. He's I wouldn't even call him a Soros light or a Soros Jr. He's like right up there with him.
Right.
Yeah, he's just not as popular. Like people, or he's not as investigated as somebody like Soros. And he also he was involved in the White Helmets, right? Like a White Helmets documentary, and like he's been involved in everything.
Probably. I'd be surprised if he wasn't, right?
Yeah, and he's part of what really clued me into this bullshit from Francis Haugen was the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists that he was a part of, and that Soros was a part of, and I'm like, well, then that makes perfect sense.
So so Pierre Omidyar has financially backed 4 papers, like they call them the papers, right? So you have the Pandora papers most recently, you have the Facebook papers, you have the Panama papers, and you have the Paradise papers. Omidyar has backed every single one of those.
Yeah.
Right. So what exactly like are they they're unveiling just enough to tell us what we already know, that billionaires put their money in offshore tax havens, right? And that they do all of this, but they're not going deeper. And they're in the last one, in the Pandora papers, they didn't mention any U.S. politicians. They focused on Putin when Putin wasn't even.
It's always Putin's inner circle, right? It's always like that. And you have maybe like a few people who are, you know, in my view, left in just to give the appearance of credibility and impartiality, like low level, you know, U.S. client state leaders, right? Just people who are totally disposable and not worth their weight. So yeah, I mean, these are like it's like weaponized information, and that's what Pierre Omidyar specializes in. The Facebook whistleblower is no surprise. When I saw that, you know, he was funding the Facebook whistleblower, I was like, of course he is, you know. And I really do encourage people to go back to those 2018 articles on Pierre Omidyar. I co-authored them with Max Blumenthal. I made a a graphic. There's this website that helped me make this graphic where I just mapped out his entire influence network. And people were recently asking me if it's been updated. Unfortunately, it hasn't, and I can't update it. I don't have access to my account on that website anymore. But at the time when I was making it, you know that meme from Always Sunny where Charlie's got the things on the board? That was me. That was me, except it was real.
So Pierre Omidyar is Pepe Lopez then?
Yeah, basically. But I mean, it's an incredible network. The more you dig, the more you find. I mean, he's been involved. He was involved with the largest human trafficking scandal in United States history. And then after that, to like kind of whitewash his role, he came out with an organization called Humanity United, which is like supposed to end human trafficking. So, I mean, this guy's a master of media manipulation, and he funds half of them. He funds half of them, so he never gets it. That's the thing. I mean, like people, he's not as high profile as Soros, but he's just as influential. And he's not as easy of a boogeyman. Like he didn't directly help with the collapse of the Soviet Union. Like he hadn't made his fortunes yet. So it's harder to, a lot of people don't know about him yet, but like in the coming years, we're going to see more of him.
Okay, I just wanted to ask a question too on specifically whistleblower AID, because how is this different than WikiLeaks? I mean, I know it is, obviously we know, but I just want to explain to people who may not know how it's different than WikiLeaks. Because when you look at WikiLeaks, it's encrypted. Somebody puts in a document there, it's published. We just talked about Julian Assange. I mean, to me, it seems like an attempt to replace an actual journalistic organization, a real one that's an actual, that's actual oversight to the government, and with a CIA intelligence type of organization.
Yeah, I mean, so directly on their website in 3 places, they mention WikiLeaks, and all of them are to disparage WikiLeaks. They position themselves as the anti-WikiLeaks and the anti-Snowden. They've also attacked, a lot of the members of this group have attacked Snowden very publicly, said that he shouldn't be pardoned, saying that, Julian Assange is finally facing justice, just in general celebrating his torture. But their main issue with WikiLeaks is that they expose classified information to the public, right? Which Mark Zaid, as a long time, as somebody who has been accused of working to further the intelligence community's interests for a very long time, he doesn't want to see classified information come out. And he always says this. They say, don't send us classified information. Don't ask us for assistance in publishing classified information. And if it's true how he contacted the FBI about Jeffrey Sterling, then doing so could land you in prison. So I'm really glad you asked this question, because it's so important to distinguish this like kind of fake whistleblower op with an organization like WikiLeaks. And you see it on the most basic level, right? Like Frances Haugen is not sitting in a Supermax, right? She was given the red carpet entrance on Capitol Hill. Real whistleblowers don't get that. And I look at John Ty, who is a co-founder of Whistleblower Aid, was legally represented by Mark Zaid, the other co-founder, before joining this organization. And when he blew the whistle, and he went through all the proper channels and never disclosed anything that was classified, it amounted to nothing. In fact, the program that he blew the whistle on, supposedly blew the whistle, that's we should have air quotes around that. That program was not only not reformed, but expanded in the final days of Obama's administration, allowing it to be used to spy on General Michael Flynn. So you see a lot of connections here to other major scandals. Not only that, but Whistleblower Aid also represented the so-called Ukraine whistleblower. A lot of these people got their start in Hillary Clinton's, and this is the ironic part, because a lot of them got their start on Hillary Clinton's Internet Freedom Campaign when she was leading the State Department, which is basically like attacking governments that are in the crosshairs of the State Department, targeted for regime change, for lack of access to internet or censorship or shutting down websites temporarily, etc. And now you see that these people are working to advance a censorship cause targeted towards the U.S. public and other places.
Targeted to groups like us and people like you, Alex. They want to
Exactly.
keep silent. But listen, I think we need to give our audience like a crash course on how to spot a fugazi whistleblower. You mentioned this kind of fake whistleblowers that come forward. So what really jumped off the page when it came to who I call Lighten Up Frances Haugen, in her background that led you to believe right off the bat, you said, this is BS?
Well, it's actually, this is not the first Facebook whistleblower that I've exposed. I also did an investigation on Christopher Wiley, who blew the whistle while at Cambridge Analytica and was, saying that, they were using mindfuck techniques to destroy democracy. And a UK judge found that it was actually bullshit, everything he said. And his main promoter in the media, Caroline Cadwallader or whatever, with The Guardian. So look, I mean, Facebook is an organization that I would like to see meaningfully confronted. But I knew right away that Frances Haugen was not doing that. First of all, she's going to meet with like the January 6th committee. So that they're going to use that to promote censorship. That they're going to use that to try to prevent political organizing on Facebook, which, will affect the left as much as the left is cheering her on. This will blow back against them because Facebook is used widely across the political spectrum for political organizing. But it was the censorship agenda, which was immediately apparent, and then it was also her parroting these U.S. government talking points about China, Iran, Myanmar, Ethiopia. I looked into her immediately when the story came out, and I found her old Twitter, I found her blog posts, I found her resume, all that stuff. And I was like, this is really uninteresting. There's like nothing here. And then I realized that, I think that, look, if I were an intelligence agency and I was seeking to cultivate an asset, right, I would look for somebody who has a boring resume, who's not super political, someone who's malleable, right? So I don't want to say directly that that's happening because, this is a topic that I'm writing about a lot of lawyers that have a lot of money, so I have to be very careful. But that's the kind of person I would go for. And then when I found inside the mainstream media, because this wasn't like I was doing like deep digging and going through archived pages and stuff to find this stuff, and then I just read the mainstream media and I saw Whistleblower Aid. So I'm like, let me look into them, and that's when the alarms really started going off.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say, what is the purpose of having these whistleblower type of intelligence assets? Because we know that this is not a whistleblower, right? We just got done talking about Julian Assange and the extradition hearing. So we know she's not a whistleblower. So if what is the purpose then to frame her as a whistleblower? Is it to make people feel like there is an attempt to hold Facebook accountable? Is it an attempt to really just co-opt the whistleblower movement, the real journalist movement, because they feel threatened? With all this money and despite all of this influence, it seems like they're losing. It seems like the mainstream media is losing because more and more people are not watching mainstream media news. More and more people are realizing that the social media giants like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram are managed and are censoring people. And there's the whole aspect of the right wing, the right wingers who are being driven off a platform and going to other platforms. What is essentially, in your opinion, the purpose of doing this?
Well, there's several advantages, and I think you kind of elucidated a few of them. One is that, yes, it co-opts the whistleblower movement. It defangs the whistleblower movement. With a person like Frances Haugen or her lawyer, John Ty, who blew the whistle at stake, blew the whistle again, you can hold them up as exemplary, right? And say, well, Julian Assange is the bad guy. He put out classified information. He put people in danger, even though he didn't, and this is what you get if you do it that way. If you want to go to Whistleblower Aid, then you can have the red carpet rollout. You can make a lot of money from tech billionaires who support you. And then the other thing is that it gives credibility to their censorship campaign to have underdog whistleblower fighting for what's right, advance their agenda. The thing is that with a whistleblower like Frances Haugen, supposed whistleblower, they're able to get away with a lot and use her as a credible source for their campaign, right? And I'm sorry, I forgot your question. I've been kind of struggling to get back to it.
No, just like why they would do this. Why would they, what's their ultimate goal, I guess, their ultimate agenda in terms of creating a fake whistleblower of sorts to actually, in the public eye? What does it get them?
So here's the thing, so the thing is that the US government wants to be able to censor social media, whether it's the so-called deep state that wants to make sure that another Donald Trump is not elected president. So the Hunter Biden story needs to be censored, which Facebook did, or whether it's Iran or China are countering our propaganda too effectively on social media, and Americans are seeing this, and that puts us in narrative danger. They want to be able to censor social media, but they can't do it outright. We have a First Amendment. And so it's much easier for them and much more effective for them to strong arm and pressure Facebook or Twitter or whoever else to do the censoring for them. So that's the role, that anything they can do to advance the justification for pressuring Facebook or another social media company to doing this kind of censorship is to their favor. And the whistleblower part is just a very effective tool in that arsenal, right?
Yeah. And I think the way to spot these, I put these, I'm going to put this down to 3 ways, according to Alex Rubenstein, to spot a fugazi whistleblower is: number 1, look for a push for more censorship; 2, they'll parrot State Department regime change narratives; and 3, I like what you said, just look what the mainstream media is saying. They'll set the table.
Yeah.
Well, the spidey senses should point up and go, something smells over here, and we have to look into this. And I think it's great that you pointed it out.
Since we have a list, we should add follow the money to it.
Follow the money. Well, 4 top reasons. Follow the money. Well, speaking of following the money, and also following the propaganda, who is Libby Liu, and what has she done to spread Chinese propaganda?
Yeah, she was the president of Radio Free Asia for 16 years. So Radio Free Asia's purpose is to try to overthrow the Chinese government. They're also hostile to North Korea, but the big bad in the region is China, and now China's the big bad of the world. So a lot of the fake news that we see about China starts with Radio Free Asia, and then AP picks it up, Reuters picks it up, and then it's throughout the whole world because those are wire services. So if you every time you read something crazy about North Korea, Kim Jong-un fed his uncle to 120 rabid dogs, something like that. You start you start on the New York Post, where you see that, right? And then it brings you to an AP report, and then the AP report brings you to Radio Free Asia, which was created again by the CIA. So she's an information warrior, right? A U.S. government information warrior. Her job is to spread disinformation. So this is another thing that should set off alarm bells for people, is word disinformation, because think about how much disinformation we've been fed by the mainstream media over the past 5-6 years, like Russiagate. That was straight up disinformation, but that's not what they want stamped out. They want other people's supposed disinformation, or regular information, which they want to call disinformation because it doesn't suit their agenda. So Libby Liu, not only was an information warrior in the in the sense that she was, leading an organization which does CIA propaganda. But she was the founder of Open Technology Fund, which has poured huge amounts of money into activists and tools for activists to help overthrow the government, wherever. So one thing that's in my article is that, like, I forget the exact percentage, but like a good portion of mobile phones globally have technology on them that's incubated by the Open Technology Fund. And I hate to say this, but unfortunately, Edward Snowden has been a big promoter of this technology. I saw recently he was tweeting about an encryption app that was started by the CIA, and he tweeted, "Oh, into the trash it goes." But then, like, for the past years, he's been relentlessly promoting Tor and Signal, which were, financed heavily by Open Technology Fund, which is basically the CIA. So it's unfortunate that he has that blind spot. And I on the topic of Snowden, because this is another reason why I think we need to support WikiLeaks, right? Because I saw 2 or 3 nights ago on Twitter, Laura Poitras and Spencer Ackerman, some other journalists, are putting out a new Snowden document on Substack, a new Snowden document. And this is not 2014. It's been 8 years since Snowden sent all his documents to journalists, right? A lot of journalists, and we're still being drip fed these disclosures. I want to start a social media campaign called #ReleaseTheLeaks. Like, enough already. If you want to blow the whistle and you want to effectuate change, go to WikiLeaks. Don't go to Whistleblower Aid. Don't go to, the Intercept. Really, don't go to the Intercept. Because Mark Zaid of Whistleblower Aid has been accused by prominent people in the whistleblower community of getting one of his clients imprisoned. The Intercept, I don't even have to say they've been accused. They've gotten clients imprisoned or sources imprisoned. So if you want to be protected, if you want to actually make change, and you want the public to actually ever become aware of the information that you have, go to WikiLeaks.
100%. And I wanted to get to your second article, because you wrote a recent article on how billionaire Reid Hoffman and George Soros launched Good Information Inc., which is, quote, a public benefit corporation to serve as a conduit of funds to newsrooms that cut through the echo chambers with fact-based information. So what is Good Inc. exactly? Because we know it's not that.
Yeah, so I mean, as I wrote in my article, it's funded by two people who are much like Pierre Omidyar, who's funding the Facebook whistleblower. You have George Soros and you have Reid Hoffman. All these oligarchs, and this is more generally speaking, it's not really in my article, but all these people that got like super ridiculously wealthy off of the internet boom. So you have Craig Newmark of Craigslist, you have Pierre Omidyar of eBay, you have and PayPal, you have Jeff Bezos of Amazon, you have Reid Hoffman of LinkedIn, you have like maybe a dozen people like this, and they're like trying to control the world now. And George Soros fits in there, even though he didn't get rich off the internet boom. He fits in with that mold. They're all kind of molded after him, really. So Reid Hoffman, George Soros, we've said enough about. He contributed to the collapse of the Soviet Union. He's attacking China. He helped with the color revolution in Ukraine, and I think it was 2006, the Orange Revolution. I'm sorry?
And in 2014 too, as well.
Yeah, he was involved, right, yeah.
He started the 2 media propaganda companies that were against the government at the particular time. So
was the Center UA and Humrox or however.
Humrox, yeah. I checked that out on like Twitter, and I checked it out on YouTube. I'm like, this is some crazy shit over here.
Yeah. So Reid Hoffman, there's been 2 scandals that he's been involved with, election meddling scandals in the past like decade, right? Even more recently than that. One is information operation on Facebook that was called Project Birmingham, started by like a Democrat-aligned PR company called New Knowledge. And what this did was, it was during the special election, the special Senate election, where you had Roy Moore going against Doug Jones in Alabama. And, there was a lot of dirty tricks that were played here. They basically like pumped a bunch of money into this like one guy who was like a no name. He was like a car salesman or something like that. I forget exactly, but something like that. Not really any experience with politics. And he was running against Roy Moore in the primary. And then, they're mysteriously, he grew like 100,000 followers like overnight. Also, they were like connecting him to major media outlets and like just like raising his profile, like just to split the Republican vote. And then there was they did like a false flag where they were able to orchestrate this scandal where it gave the appearance that Roy Moore was being boosted on social media by Russian bots. So you had a bunch of bots that weren't Russian but were made to look Russian. So the mainstream media ate that shit up, and they were able to paint Roy Moore as tied to the Russians, which was damaging. And they say in internal company documents that this was able to flip the vote to Doug Jones, his rival. So you had that, which was very effective, and it was all bankrolled by Reid Hoffman, who's behind this new media venture, Good Information. And then with the Iowa caucuses in 2020, you had the whole shadow app acronym controversy where, Pete Buttigieg was like a no name and Bernie Sanders was leading in all the exit polls and all the polling prior. And suddenly Pete Buttigieg is saying he won, and then 6 days later they finally announced the results, and turns out Pete Buttigieg won. And the founder of the company behind the app that was used that caused all these problems, the Shadow app, the aptly named, woman by the name of Tara McGowan. So, and again, Reid Hoffman bankrolled this company acronym. So Tara McGowan is actually married to a then senior advisor to Pete Buttigieg. So you have a lot of conflicts of interest there. Tara McGowan, of course, despite this huge scandal, despite apologizing for her failures, she's maintained a relationship with Reid Hoffman. In fact, she's going to be leading this Good Information team. So those two scandals have not affected their business relationship, surprisingly. I would think that if I was a billionaire and like I had this girl who I was giving money to for various projects, and she was creating all these national controversies and tarnishing the image of the Democratic Party, I'd be like, yeah, I'll see you later. I'll find someone new, right? No. So yeah, and then, the other people involved with this project, not just the funders, George Soros and Reid Hoffman, the advisory board is like, it's a lot of Obama people. It's one funny thing that I found was Ilana Glazer is on the advisory board. This is the chick from Broad City, the Comedy Central show, who had Hillary Clinton on. And man, I wanted to put this video in my article so bad, because they had in 2016 during the primary. So this is when Hillary Clinton's main opponent was Bernie Sanders. It's not Donald Trump. They had her come on their show, and it's just such a ridiculous clip where they're like volunteering at our campaign or something, her headquarters in Brooklyn. And she walks in and they just like their jaws drop on the floor. It's totally ridiculous. And then on Twitter, she was saying, let's win this primary, Hillary. So these are all people who have worked with the U.S. government, specifically the Obama administration or the Clinton campaign, or for, like other disinformation, Democrat-aligned outfits. Like you have like Accountable Tech is one company that I list. And this is, it's all the same shit we've seen since 2016, where they want to just totally control information on social media for two objectives. One is for national security objectives, and the other is to prevent somebody like Donald Trump becoming president again.
Good Info Inc. fam says it ain't good. You got any more questions, fam?
I just wanted to reiterate that Pod Save America guy is also going to be on the board of Good Inc. I think his name is Dan Pfeiffer.
That's right.
Him and
But
like
he was an
bunch of,
Obama guy too.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just to show, because people are like, oh, he has a podcast and that has nothing to do with no, it like literally like these people have ties to the Democratic establishment. Just because they're a podcaster doesn't mean that they don't have ties. And it's crazy how you all you did was follow the money, and it's crazy how easy it is to follow the money, but the vast majority of people do not do that kind of journalism at all.
It's funny. It's funny because for so much of my reporting, I use LinkedIn, and here I am using LinkedIn against the founder of LinkedIn.
Nice.
But and then it's funny because they're all such obvious partisan hacks, right? And then they say, well, we'll go across the spectrum. We'll fund some media ventures that are maybe right leaning, and they say, oh, maybe the Bulwark, which was founded by Bill Kristol, the guy from the founder of the Project for a New American Century, one of the most leading voices for the Iraq War. Totally unrepentant. Now he's woke. He's going on MSNBC and like hanging out with Fat Joe, and like, I'm sorry, what the fuck has Fat Joe done recently? I just like, I was like 13 the last time Fat Joe had a hit. So
you talking about Joe Scarborough? Is he getting fat?
No.
Yeah, see, he doesn't even know who Fat Joe is.
Who's Fat Joe?
You know who Fat Joe is, Pasta, don't you?
Fat Joe the gangster?
No.
Yeah, he's a rapper.
Yeah. Oh, wait. What is Fat Joe?
Did he do a song with J-Lo?
Yeah, Fat Joe was Big Pun's sidekick before Big Pun died and whatnot. Yeah, I know Fat Joe.
Yeah, well, he's buddies with Bill Kristol now.
Oh God.
MSNBC has like a whole thing about it. It's hilarious.
Fat Joe was trying to get involved in politics, and the first time I seen him try to talk to people during the primaries, I'm like, Fat Joe, just go back to rapping. Just go back to rapping.
Well, Alex, you've been doing a lot of work. Thank you so much for coming on and trying to break this down. Guys, you should go read the article because he gets really deep into the nitty gritty of things. Both of the articles, they were for Grey Zone, right?
Yeah, both of them were for Grey Zone. Yeah.
But you also have a Substack.
Yeah, you can follow me on Substack. It's substack.com/realalexruby, RUBI. I have a podcast too on Rokfin. It's called Pro Democracy Pod. So it's Rokfin with a K /Pro Dem Pod.
Yeah. And you know what? I think people should, like you said, revisit the 2018 articles on Omidyar. It's really important right now to understand. Follow the money will be the number 5, right? Number 4 will be beware of the term disinformation and stuff. And I just want to point out, Mr. Rubenstein, that it is very much disinformation that Kim Jong-un fed his uncle to 120 rabbit dogs. Everybody knows it was 110, so we have to get that straight. Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me. You guys do excellent work. A necessary asset for the left and for the anti-imperialists.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you very much, Alex. Appreciate it.